If you are an introvert, you must watch this video. She clones an extrovert version of herself, and her life changes completely. So my introverted gals and gents, this recap is for you. Before we get into the story, please make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to get notified whenever I publish a new story for you. Thank you. The movie starts with the main character, Madison Montgomery, working on a smart mirror that's able to scan her face and tell her name. Madison's roommate Harper walks in dressed as a wicked witch. She's going to a Halloween party and she uses the mirror which tells her she's the favorite of them all, so she marvels at Madison's genius. She invites Madison to the party, but Madison says no because remember, she has crippling social anxiety and a super introvert. So Harper and her friends go partying. Madison goes to the school library where she works as a part-time librarian, and she meets with Henry, the real librarian, and they have a friendly banter of bad jokes. Suddenly this dude, Trevor, who Madison has a crush on, comes to return a set of books, and they have that classic book drop romantic moment where the two hit each other's head and they have eye contact and they most probably fall in love. Trevor leaves and Henry advises her to ask him out, go out to the party, or even apply as a research assistant for the science faculty. But again, she says no because of her social anxiety, and she prefers to scan barcodes instead. The scene cuts to Madison attending a class on genetics, where Trevor and Harper are her classmates, and the lecturer gives a lecture on plant genetics and cloning. After the class, the teacher asks her to join a study group and turn in her lab reports. But again, Madison is a perfectionist and she is scared of collaborating with other people. The teacher is displeased by this effect and Madison gets sad. By now, we start to see that Madison's social anxiety is really getting in the way of her living that good life. She returns to the library and tells Henry she wants to be alone. She avoids people and uses the elevator, which takes her to the spooky library basement. She sees a bunch of stuff mostly covered in dust, and then she sees a really spooky and old computer that asks her if she is ready to duplicate. She clicks enter and a big glass tank behind her starts bringing out smoke. She's scared and leaves the library and does research about cloning. Like at the library, she sees Trevor getting hit on by a pretty girl. Good for you, little man. Madison gets jealous, so she grabs an apple, returns to the basement, puts the apple in the machine and clones it. Except the apple clone is hollow. She fine-tunes the cloning process and clones just the apple stem itself. She also realizes she can input commands into the computer that will change some characteristic of the resultant clone. She goes back to class and asks her teacher if it's possible to perfect a clone. And the teacher is like, nah, everything is perfect by the way God made it. And Madison is like, hell with it, I'ma clone the stuff anyway, and went back to the lab to clone the apple, and she inputs shiny and flawless characteristic into it, and it works. Then she put a swab of her saliva into the cloning thing. I guess if she was a boy, we all know what we would put on the swab. Anyway, as for the new characteristics, she inputs confident, assertive, and brave. And the machine started duplicating. And as you can imagine, it wasn't an easy process, and the power went out and stuff. But her clone successfully came out of the machine after it all, in full clothes, which is really annoying. I was expecting a naked version like a Terminator. Anyway, Madison meets clone. They eye each other, and then Henry comes in and Madison hides. Henry sees the clone and thinks it is Madison. He takes her upstairs. Clone is all confident and smiling, and she even asks Trevor out on the first encounter without any hesitation. And he says yes. While Madison watches, she steals Henry's coat and hat from a hanger, covers Clone, and takes her back to the door. She freaks out as she finds out Clone has all her memories and they're the same person, except Clone is brave and assertive and fascinated by everything. Suddenly Harper enters the room. Madison hides in the closet and Clone tells Harper she wants to go to the party tonight. Harper is surprised but agrees. We cut to them at a party. Clone is being charming and loose and turning down guys who want to dance. Trevor walks in and they start dancing and stuff while the real Madison watches from the bushes. Clone starts chatting with everyone and even pushes the overbearing dude who insists on dancing into a pool. Madison wakes up in the closet the next day while the clone sleeps on her bed, and Harper has no idea what's going on and leaves. Guess the extrovert version of herself already took over her life. Madison tells the sleeping clone that she's going to the class and warns her to stay inside, and heads to the class. And in the class, everyone talks about how fun the party was and how Clone as Madison had even become the new ping pong champion. And it turns out Clone had scheduled a date with Trevor again. The teacher comes in and asks Madison to give a presentation, and again social anxiety takes over. Meanwhile, Clone takes one of Harper's dresses and heads out, getting tons of compliments from everyone. She meets Henry and they start trading bad jokes again. After the class, Madison sees Clone outside despite her warnings. She's evidently distraught, but they settle their differences and they decide to live a literal double life, where Clone helps Madison with all her public engagements while Madison works on her confidence. They start their operation by going shopping. They buy a bunch of new clothes which match each other, but they avoid detection from Harper, and Clone heads out to her date with Trevor while Madison watches. Clone and Trevor have a nice talk and catch up, and Clone decides to go on stage and sing. And it's amazing for Madison because Clone is her and she never thought she could do all of this. So they continue with the arrangement. Clone helps her with her public engagements and makes a ton of new friends. She even does the presentation and aces it. But now, Trevor invites Clone to a bowling date, and the real Madison promises to tap in during the date. When Clone meets up with Trevor, they have a good time. Trevor even talks about how he used to be sick as a child, and Clone tells him the reason Madison is so shy. Turns out Madison's older sister criticized Madison a lot as a child and hurting her confidence. Trevor is sympathetic, and he bowls a strike in his first attempt. This dude is just too cool. Clone is unsuccessful and Trevor suggests she uses a smaller ball. Clone makes an excuse of going to the toilet and taps Madison in, but is unable to tell her about the ball. So Madison gets upset and scared and taps Clone back in. Clone and Trevor end up having a nice time with no kissing. Sorry Trevor, not this time. In the next scenes, we see more scenes of Clone living Madison's best life, and Madison starts to get sad. So Madison starts berating her about being outside too much. Madison goes to work at the library. Henry says she's a lot different, but Henry attributes it to her not living authentically. He advises her to do so. She meets up with Clone in her room, and Clone tells her how everything is going great. They have friends and they have a boyfriend and they're popular, and Madison is upset. Why? But she says they need to plan what to do for a spring break. But before they can talk, Harper walks in, so real Madison hides in the closet again, and Harper and Clone try on matching outfits and they head out to a party. And that's how it is to be a party girl. Madison calls her mom and tells her she's looking forward to coming home for Thanksgiving the next day, and they're supposed to go to a big festival. In the class, the teacher tells Madison that she's impressed with Madison's performance and wants her research assistant, and the teacher asks Madison to make a presentation after the break. Madison heads out and sees Clone entering the car with her mom. Wow, as Madison, which it wasn't planned. This upsets her so much, and she heads to her room and finds Harper, who is leaving for break. Harper leaves and Madison is all alone. Meanwhile, Clone heads home as Madison, and she brags about how amazing college life is, which upsets her older sister, who is really a bitch, because she says she prefers Madison being all reclusive in her room. But Clone is not having it. She bakes a pie and enters into a pie competition for the festival to piss off her sister. Meanwhile, real Madison meets up with her teacher, who is surprised to see her, and Madison tells her about her identity crisis and how she doesn't know who she is. The teacher gives her a pep talk and says she'll be fine if she knows her identity in Jesus Christ. Oh my god. Wait, is this a Christian movie? Did I miss something? Yeah, it is. Otherwise, we would have seen LGBTQXYZ. Either Trevor could have been gay or Madison lesbian. I don't know. Anyway, this cheers up Madison and she starts to feel better. Meanwhile, Clone is just killing it back home and pissing off the big sis. She even sings a beautiful song and wins the singing competition in the festival, surprising everyone, especially her mother and of course her bitchy sister. When Clone returns to school, Madison tackles her and shouts at her for stealing her life. She states that she doesn't want to see her anymore and takes back her phone. Clone is upset and runs off, and Madison goes back to ignoring her friends, which must have been really annoying. Clone sits on a park bench and she realizes that she's starting to fade, so she runs off. Trevor meets up with real Madison and talks about how he misses her and he's really smooth, and he asks her out to a party that's happening soon in the school. Madison realizes that she's going to need Clone and runs to look for her. She eventually finds her in the lab, trying to declone herself. Is that possible? Well, trying to delete herself. They have a deep conversation and they both resolve to work together to make Madison's life better. They go on a date with Trevor. Clone hides and real Madison talks to him. Finally, it's all nice and all, but Madison notices that Clone is starting to fade. She leaves the date again, which is rude, and takes Clone to the lab and tries to save her, but Clone advises against it and tells her to live her life and that they should enjoy the last moments they have together, which they do. They go shopping one last time and have various fun activities. Lastly, Clone escorts Madison to her presentation, and Madison gives a really good speech on self-confidence and gets the job as a research assistant. By the time she steps out, Clone is already gone, leaving Henry's coat behind. I guess she came with clothes but left naked. That's very unfortunate for us. Anyway, she meets Trevor and tells him the good news, and they decide to celebrate. She also runs into Henry and returns his clothes and tells him she's now a research assistant. He's happy for her and tells her one more bad joke. Madison returns to her dorm and gets a phone call from her mom, who tells her she's proud of her. So is her sister. Wow. Well, of course, when you can't beat someone, then you will become a fan. She dresses nicely and walks out with Harper and her friends to party. She meets up with Trevor, they finally share a kiss, and Shirley claps afterwards too. But we can't see those scenes because this is a Christian movie for sure. Next, we see Madison in a class, being confident. She is now the new teacher of genetics in this school, and it's awesome. Thanks for watching, and come back for more clapping. Although this one wasn't much about clapping. But anyway, see you in the next one.